Greetings to Skylight friends and family. We hope you and yours are safe and sound as we all navigate these challenging times. Hopefully we are seeing lights at the ends of a few tunnels. I'm very excited tonight to welcome a team of writers that are helping Skylight Music Theater launch its new MKE Makes New Works series with a brand new musical, Fortunate Sons. I'm going to bring them in one at a time, starting with co-book writer Eric Cohen. Eric,
hi, Michael.
Welcome.
I'm good.
Welcome to the Skylight Social.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here in tropical Milwaukee to work on this show.
Yeah.
And just excited to do this kind of talk back.
Good. We're excited to connect you with our loyal friends and audience. So next is our producer and co-book writer, Mark Madnek. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Michael. Hi, Eric. Hi, everybody.
Hey, Mark.
Welcome to the Skylight Social.
Wonderful being here.
The next gentleman needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce him anyway. Oscar, Grammy, and Golden Globe winning Mr. Paul Williams.
Hey,
Paul.
Hi, guys.
Welcome to Skylight.
Incidentally, the hors d'oeuvres were fantastic. Thanks.
So we're here to talk about Fortunate Sons, and I'd love to hear from each of you the inspiration for the piece, how you connected to each other, and a little bit of background about Fortunate Sons itself. So maybe start with Mark. Maybe tell us how this piece came into being.
Right. Well, I've been creative my whole adult life, and one of my buddies and a professional acquaintance of mine actually lived the moment of the draft. And years ago, I remember him telling me about how all his buddies got together at a party where they lived, wondering what's going to happen if their number or birth date was going to be called that particular day. And I put it in a drawer thinking this would make a great play one day, a great movie or whatever. And it was in my drawer of ideas. And it wasn't only until about 3-4 years ago, I approached Eric, who me and him have been writing together off and on for 30 years. And I said, Eric, I really have an interesting idea for a show that could be very producible because it's not a big show when it comes to costumes and all of that. And let me tell you this idea. And that's when Eric said, and maybe Eric can continue from there.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, I've said this many times before, but I think it's really true. You know, not every idea sort of warrants people breaking out into song, where you have sort of a scene and then at some point the music comes underneath and then they start singing. Not every subject matter calls for that. When Mark told me this idea, it immediately felt like one that did. And we were kind of off and running, developing the story from there.
Fantastic. And how did you guys connect with Paul Williams?
Well, Paul and I found out in the well, actually, we were introduced by a mutual friend. I approached this friend about some people he might know, and he mentioned that he knew Paul. And I went, could you introduce me? And I'll let Paul answer the rest of that question.
Yeah, oh, yeah, it was just, you have to love something to devote the amount of time that it takes to write a musical. To write a musical, you have to fall in love with the characters. I picked up the book, the script, and about 3 pages into it, I was just, I know these people. I'm from Lucasville, Ohio. Come on. I moved around a lot, but I'm basic Ohio. I look at this, and the writing was so, it was so natural. So, and the story is so compelling. I said yes right away.
Great. So Eric, would you mind giving us a little synopsis about the piece? Don't give away too much because we want people to see it.
Yeah.
But a little background about the work.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically centers on one event, which actually happened. And it was an event that I was not aware of, but on December 1st, 1969, the United States government decided to hold a draft lottery and do it live on television, which basically meant that upwards of 1 million eligible men sat down in front of the television like you were watching, a football game or your favorite sitcom, only to find out if your birthday would be called at a point in the order of your birthday whether or not you'd be going to Vietnam or not. And it basically, we created a family that was getting together to watch it on that night. And, you know, the sort of side stories and relationships and highs and lows that every family goes through.
Yeah, and for those of you who may not be familiar with the actual event, they had blue capsules with every birth date, every date of the year plus leap year in each blue capsule, and they're randomly picked out by a senator here, a student there, and they'd unroll it and they'd announce the date, and it would go up on a board. And if you were in the first third of the 365 dates picked, you were most likely going to be drafted. In the middle third, maybe, and in the last third, probably not. So one of the things that I think is so beautiful about this piece, and Paul's right, you do fall in love with these characters, this family from Middle America, from the middle of Ohio, is the piece honors equally those who served and those who chose not to serve. And that's a very important, I think, element to this work. Yeah. So we at Skylight are extremely excited to have you guys here. And can you talk a little bit about what it means to bring a piece like this that you've never heard before, put up by actors? You've never heard the songs before, except for out of Paul's mouth on the demos. You've never heard the scenes read, except for maybe you guys doing it yourselves. So what does it mean to you to have a theater like Skylight? And I mean, we're so happy to have you, and we are very excited that this particular piece is launching our NKE Makes series. But what does it mean to the writers to actually see a piece in reading form like this?
Well, Michael, every musical that everybody that's watching is familiar with has gone through a series of things like we're about to do on Friday and Saturday night. By having what's called a staged reading, or even a workshop from time to time, is a chance for the authors, such as the three of us, to hear it out loud. I mean, so far, it's been us in a room singing it to each other and acting it out with each other. So,
which is clearly frightening.
Correct, especially when I sing. So for us, especially if there was a live audience, right, we can gauge how the audience is reacting to the piece. But in this case, we're inviting the people who are watching to actually send us an email, send it to the Skylight Theater, or what you thought about it, because that's why we're here. We're here to make it better, and very well may have another reading down the road, all until we eventually have a production, and hopefully eventually on Broadway. There has been steps like this along the way in every musical, and this is the first one for us. So we're very excited to be here and have this opportunity. And so far, when I'm singing rehearsals, it's dynamite so far with the cast. They're terrific, and seeing our music and words come to life is just, it's a thrill.
Yeah, it's a great cast. It's a local cast. I think there's one actor from Chicago who's staying locally, but it is a local cast virtually. And just in case you don't know, we are live streaming 2 performances where actors are in the theater, no audience, however, and they'll be live streamed this Friday and Saturday, starting at 7:30. And then following the performance, the stream, you'll have an opportunity to email and text questions to us, and there'll be a live talk back with the actors and the 4 of us, and we'll have as interactive an experience as possible given the circumstances we're in. Now, it's nobody's first choice to do a musical like this virtually, but this piece actually lends itself fairly well for the restrictions and boundaries we have to operate within. Can you talk a little bit about the talent that you found here, Paul Williams?
Oh my God, that's one of the most amazing things is, first of all, how quickly they just stepped into these roles, and the level of talent. I mean, for me, it's a 3-tissue piece already. There's 3 numbers. I swear to, and I'm Weepy Williams. I watched a commercial on it. They reject a potato chip in it, and I've related to the potato chip. I sob, but. What's remarkable about this, I think, is to watch, and somebody asked me about the whole thing being dated. That we're talking about something that incidentally I lived through in 1969. I'm 80 years old, so it was in my 20s. And if I had been, if I found out at the last minute I was tall enough to serve. So I got underweight, under 100 pounds, to not serve, because I was solidly against the war in Vietnam. The thing that I love about what we've been able to do, and with this remarkable family, And this remarkable story is tell both sides of it, because the older you get, I haven't changed my mind about the, going to Vietnam and the like, but I have to tell you, my respect for the vets that did serve is something that gets solidly expressed in the songs, that are sung in the musical. Because they came home to a cold shoulder, when they were just there to serve their country.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so this is a 10-day rehearsal process. We got here, we started last Wednesday, so it'll be 10 days total. So I want to talk a little bit about sort of the safety precautions we're taking. So everyone is tested negative before they can come into the theater. And I'm going to share my screen with you and show you how we've set up the theater, where we have, you can't really see, which is good, but there are 8 plexiglass panels running upstage, downstage. They create 9 plexiglass lanes, and nobody ever goes out of their lane. So they're literally encased in plexiglass. And I don't know if you can see, we've extended the downstage 4 feet of the plexiglass a little higher, just to take care of airspace, so no one shares airspace. And this is the view from backstage, from the piano towards the beautiful Cabot stage. Unfortunately, no audience, but there you go. And there are performers lined up in their plexiglass lanes. Their masks will be off when they sing and do the scenes. And then here's how we communicated with the authors when they were in LA. And we zoomed in with Paul today for a long rehearsal, which was great. And they zoom in to the big TV in the middle of the house, and they talked to the actors and they interacted. Paul gave some great notes about all the songs today, and that's me directing from my plexiglass cubicle. Anyway, so we've had to obviously make some adjustments for the pandemic period we're in, but it's worked out, I think, pretty well. Also, to elevate it from the sort of standard Zoom experience, I've actually storyboarded the entire show. So it's a 3-camera shoot. So we're going to have, I'm going to show you this other screen. Hold on. Here we are. So you see, here's the cast sort of in their lanes. And then I've storyboarded each camera will be taking 2 shots, 1 shot, full company. So you see, we storyboarded the whole show. Actually, you're seeing the whole show now, but it's better in person. So we've mapped out everything so that it becomes a little bit more filmic rather than sort of a big old Zoom call where everyone's sort of visible all the time.
I think, Michael, if I may, I think it's important to let the audience know that what you wind up with as a final product is basically what they did for years with it, with sitcoms. Archie Bunker was a 3-camera show, which is exactly what you're offering to the audience that zooms in. They get to see it, with the faces at the appropriate times and all, which is fabulous. And you remain the boy in the plastic bubble.
I do. All right, so we have some questions that have come in. I think we can start answering some of those, folks. You can type in your questions. Okay, how long has this project been in the works? What happens next? Mark, why don't you take that?
Yeah, well, I think it was about 3 years ago when Eric got all excited from my phone call. And so we wrote a story that's somewhat similar to what you have here, but all over the place, I would say at first. And we wanted to be a musical right away, but we didn't have a composer. So what we actually did was we took songs from the 60s and we put them in as placeholders in certain spots that we thought would be good music so we could write the show properly. And then what happened was, obviously, the show didn't have a lot of heart or a lot of feel to it by sticking a Beach Boys song in or a Bob Dylan song in or whatever we did at the time. But we used that script actually to encourage Paul. So when Paul did first read it, he saw something with a lot of those hit songs from that time period as fillers. And so to answer your question, it's been 3 years since we started. It's been about 1.5 years since Paul joined us, and now we're showing our first draft.
And I should say that had we known that we'd eventually be showing it to Paul, we absolutely would have stuck one of his songs in there, because we're not stupid. So, but we got him anyway, so that's exciting.
Yeah. The thing is that most pop songwriters make a big mistake when they sit down to try to write a musical, because we all want to have one of those great, my God, what a magnificent song moments and all. but that's not what's required. That, the two tasks basically are advance the plot, and the second one would be to really, expose the inner life of the characters and all. And I feel very weird sitting here as if I'm explaining this to Michael, who's an amazing director, and that's what he does, by day with these guys in rehearsal. But it's a really an amazing challenge, and for all of us, and an instant reward, because as you see along the way, it's you see bits and pieces of what the show is going to be like. It was already there with the script, but then as you begin to hear people of real talent, speak these lines, sing these songs, it's you don't have to give up your fan card to do this for a living. I'm a fan of everybody I'm watching.
And post a comment. Milwaukee has already had a stamp on the show, because I would say there are very few pages that have not had one little change or another, and some very large changes. So, we're definitely taking in all the work that these wonderful actors are doing, and that teaches us about the show. You can't really know everything about a show until you hear it, and you let other people become experts in their roles, and they start to teach you what you didn't know about the piece and about the people. So it's incredibly helpful.
Yeah, and I just have to say one thing that just popped into my head, because we talked about the cast. I mean, the cast that you've assembled, Michael, and that we ended up with is just, lights out top to bottom. And, I'll never forget the moment today when the actress who played Abby sung, a solo number, and Paul said, you've just made that song yours. So that's the level of talent that we're talking about. And I think it's pretty special.
And I'd say she was pretty happy to hear that from Paul Williams.
Yes.
Paul,
yes.
Did you write songs to reflect the era?
Say again?
The question on the screen. Did you write songs to reflect the era?
Not really. I mean, if they sound like the Mamas and the Papas or Jackson Browne or any of my heroes from that era, that's wonderful and all. And there is, in fact, that flavor, I think, in some of the songs. But Hamilton doesn't really sound like the music from that period either. The fact is that I wrote to the story, and I wrote to the characters. And while that is a seasoning, that is a flavor, that's not what the songs are about. And I think that thanks, to something, like Hamilton, a lot of walls have been knocked down. A lot of walls have been knocked down, and we can in fact blend kind of, and there's not really a time signature on these songs. I think that some of them more than others. There's a song called Laurel Canyon that sounds like a Beach Boys record. I'm proud to say, especially the way it's being sung right now.
Okay. How did it feel when you first heard the music for your script sung by the cast?
I personally didn't stop listening for hours. So is that a great answer? I mean, I pretty much could sing them all by heart. I mean, I went out every day and work out and run and even swim with these songs in my ear. So I love them. I love them right away. I mean, I'm waiting for the day to say, Paul, I don't like that song, but it hasn't happened.
Well, and I just wanted to add, the very first time that we met with Paul, so this is after he had read our draft of the script, we met in LA it was a brunch, but it was like the middle of the day. We were the only people in the restaurant. We were there right when it opened, and Paul was sitting across from us, and he had already sort of dictated the lyrics to the opening song of the show, and he just read them to us as lyrics. And I think both Mark and I knew at that moment that he was the guy to write the music for this show, just from that. And this was before a tune. This was just when he had the lyrics, and it was that powerful and that, just spot on to what we wrote to get it there.
And we were very giddy on the drive home. You should have seen us. We were very excited and very giddy. Yeah.
Just to put a button on the moment, I actually sang it to them, and that's why
You did.
I sang it. I didn't read it, but that's what it sounds like when I sing something. It sounds like I'm reading it. Fair
enough.
sad.
Okay. Okay.
Actually, when we got home, we said, Paul, can you send us the lyrics to that song and sing it for us? Because we wanted to keep listening to it over and over again right away.
It's a great story and a great script, and the songs, are written by the characters. I mean, that's basically my task, is to look at Abby, what Abby's going through, and create something that is really created by. I mean, even a movie like Ishtar, where I'm writing the songs for two bad songwriters. I inhabit the characters and go, what is Dustin Hoffman going to sound like, or what is Warren Beatty's character going to sound like? So that's part of the task. Part of writing songs, I think, for a musical is an acting job, and really inhabiting those characters. And these are great characters, fantastic.
What else we got, Susan? Mr. Williams, I've been a devoted fan of yours since I first heard Wings in 1971. When did you first have the desire to write for musical theater?
Writing for movies, Bugsy Malone or Phantom of the Paradise or the Muppet movie or the Muppet Christmas Carol, any of those, the fact is they're on the screen, but they're musicals. And some of the first thing I did with Henson was Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, which we're now preparing for the stage. It opens this next Christmas at the New Vic in New York. So much of the work that I did in the 70s and through the years has really been within this form, for a different genre. But the Songs in the Stars Born, move the character along, the stories along. It's just a beautiful blending of the two things that I'm deeply passionate. Well, there are three things I'm deeply passionate about. First of all, recovery. I'm 30 years sober, and I never pass up a chance to tell the people that are watching that if you have a problem, if I can get better, you can get better. But I'm an out of work actor. I started out as an actor, so I love film. I love acting. I love music. And where do you go for that? You go to the Skylight Theater, where the audience becomes your collaborator and tells you what's working and what's not.
Nicely said, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's in the play, actually. Thank you very much. What else we got, Susan? Was the current climate of unrest in our country one reason you decided to develop Fortunate Sons? Eric, take it.
Yeah, I would say yes and no. You can't, I don't think you could write a show about the Vietnam War and what was going on in 1969 without having a sense of what's gone on since then. I mean, I would say that it's not only the current climate, but it's probably been going on from 1969 through 2019, 20, and 21. So I don't think it's both of those things. But I don't think we consciously, we weren't thinking about those things when we were writing it, because we were very much trying to be of the time and of the era and trying to be as authentic as possible to that time.
And I think it's fair to point out that there are other stories within this that are the heart of the. I think the heart of the story is what this pending disaster of being drafted and sent to Vietnam brings out in the people. So the things you see in their private lives become major parts of the story, and I think that there are things going on in 2000 or 21. That you would have thought would have been resolved many, many, many years ago that were going on in 1969. But there's work to do and social issues, and it was a great chance to really stand up and scream out about bigotry and a bunch of issues that are still we're dealing with today.
Yeah, true. Life still had to go on, even though the centerpiece of this musical is that one event. But like Paul said, you learn about the lives, the relationships, the loves, the losses, the secrets, the tensions, the challenges, the familial, sort of dynamics. So it's very full that way, wonderfully full that way.
Thank you.
So, Michael, can I comment on the selection of this piece, one that is written by an all-white and out-of-town creative team and offers limited opportunities for diversity in race, gender, and ability? So the woman who wrote this said I could mention her name. Her name is Megan Randolph. She's the executive director of Music Theater of Madison. And she wrote a very detailed and very thorough question or email to us about this. And Megan, we've emailed about having a full conversation. If I can't answer everything you talked about in your, very well-formed text to me, we'll talk on the phone. But anyway, we were planning on doing our BIPOC New Works Festival right around this time. And that was actually supposed to launch NKE Make series. And this is not replacing the BIPOC Festival. That has been pushed a year. And the reason we decided to postpone the BIPOC Festival is because having 3 casts from 3 different shows all rehearsing at the same time just could not happen in the world of a pandemic. I also felt like to do those 3 shows in rep in a festival format without a live audience would not serve the pieces very well. So it was a very hard decision to postpone that, because I was very excited about that festival being the first NKE Makes thing. But it was not the best way to serve those writers and those pieces. And then you asked why I chose an all-white team. I didn't choose an all-white team. I chose a piece of theater I thought was very valuable. In fact, we've been talking about this piece, Fortunate Sons, since the day I got here a year and a half ago in September of 19. And I've known Mark and Eric because I've directed a fabulous piece of this called Liberty Smith, a reading in 2002, and then again in 2015 in Newtown, Connecticut. So I'll actually solo myself just so they don't have to be responding to all this. Anyway, I've known them for a long time, and I've loved their work. And when Mark contacted me with this piece, I thought it'd be a great opportunity to do it here at some point. It just hadn't been scheduled. And because it is 9 people, there's not a lot of production numbers, not a lot of big choreography or scenic stuff. It actually works quite well in a pandemic setting if it has to be done that way with these lanes of plexiglass. So it wasn't a conscious decision that had anything to do with color of anybody. It was, I like the piece, the writers are quality, Paul Williams is on that team, and why would I not do it? Again, it does not replace the BIPOC Festival at all. She also asked why there was only 1 actor of color. Well, the piece itself has a very important subplot, a main plot about a biracial relationship. Therefore, there could only be 1 actor of color or 1 character of color in the piece. It is part of the story. So I hope that answers that question. And then you asked why there are few roles for female identifying performers. Well, they had to focus on men that were being drafted, and 2 soldiers. So those were men, because that's how the world worked back then. And the number of women in the show is the number of women that they wrote to make the show happen, to tell the story. So, it wasn't like I chose a show with less women than more women. I chose the show again. And then you also asked why they weren't local writers. And I'm a huge fan of local talent here. I think what I've done so far, even given the restrictions of the pandemic world, have shown I love the local talent here. That's the lifeblood of Skylight. But I think you need balance. And I think to bring in a few renowned artists like these can help bring national attention to our city and to the performers. And I can tell you from today, they had a 2.5-hour session, a 3.5-hour session with Paul Williams. And to have Paul talking to them about how to interpret their songs and how much he loved the way they were interpreting them is a great experience. And I think that balance and mixing local talent and some less local talent, I think is a great balance and really good for the ecosystem. If it's all one or all the other, ecosystem fails. So I am thrilled and proud to produce this. It does not mean I'm not thrilled and proud to produce other things and focus on BIPOC writers, which of course we will do as soon as we can, as soon as the pandemic allows us to do that the way it should be done. So I hope this answers your question. And Megan, again, I promise you we'll talk and we can go into more detail if you'd like. So thank you for letting me go on that.
Michael, is there room for like a 1-minute response from me? It's a great question. There's nothing in my world, in my life right now, that I think is more important than I work for ASCAP, and the way we're dealing with expanding diversity, dealing with LGBTQ plus issues and the like. One of the things I love about the show, and I just want to say that's a great question that should always be asked. But I have to tell you that one of the reasons I was attracted to the show is that it deals with those issues. This is a show that deals with, with an interracial couple and what it was like then. And God, this is stuff that should be fixed ages ago, and it hasn't been. I have it. I will say that my daughter and her partner were married a few years ago. So LGBTQ issues for me, back in the days of God, what's her name? The from Florida,
Anita Bryant.
Exactly. I took out a full-page ad against Anita Bryant that said, "This is Paul Williams, in response to Anita Bryant's crusade, have stopped drinking screwdrivers," which are made. I'm both deeply concerned, and proud of what this country, the way things are evolving right now in a response to what we saw during the COVID as a captive audience. I think it's incredibly important that issues of diversity, of gender issues and the like are key and important, and they need to be brought up. And thank you for doing that. If I can ever be of service to you and that cause, please you can reach me through Michael.
Thank you, Paul. And also, there are different tracks. This work is on a slightly different track than the BIPOC Festival would be. The BIPOC Festival is to discover voices that are not sort of perhaps heard as often on our stages. This show, like I said, from a year and a half ago, since the day I got to this theater, has a commercial producer, Mark Madnek, who is tracking this to have a regional life and perhaps a New York life. And its first stop, it was born in Milwaukee at Skylight Music Theater, which is so exciting. But having the commercial producer behind it makes it sort of in a slightly different category than some of the other work we're doing. Okay, any more questions coming up, Susan? To Paul Williams, could you talk about the songwriting process for this piece? Is it different than trying to write a hit song?
Absolutely, absolutely different, because the script is your Bible. This is what you do is you sit down, you look at a place that is a wonderful scene where somebody's trying to work through a confrontation, and you look at it and does this work best with the dialogue, or is this a place where we can jump into this the hidden response from somebody's chest, where they look around and express there's something that is revealing about the character. So when you're writing a hit song, it's just like, boy, I hope Barbara likes this. It's just like, it's in my DNA. All songwriters want to have a big old hit song and everything. But to hear the truth coming out of a character's mouth, to have them turn to somebody and start singing and have it sound like the dialogue, have it sound like the same truth. You've managed to match that with the same truths and a little bit of more information about what. There's a song there's a song that the mother sings. One of the mothers sings about, my first love was a boy next door, a shy boy. I don't believe he ever knew my name. And it goes into this whole her story in the war and how it's, so you get to find little, you get to create part of their history in the songs you write. So it's way too much fun. It's way too much fun. A labor of love, but a labor. And
there might be a hit song in there somewhere, or two or three. They're tuneful. I mean, talk about earworms. I wake up, go to sleep. I cannot get Paul's tunes out of my head on this show.
Thank you.
That's a good sign, I guess. So tune in, folks, this weekend. To everyone, what do you hope audiences will take away from the stage concert readings on Friday and Saturday? This is our last question.
I certainly hope that they enjoy the show. And like I think Eric said once before, like if you like it in this format, you can imagine how much you would like it if we actually staged a production. So if we look for if it was on a scale from 1 to 10, 7, 8, 9s are great in this environment. And if that's what people get out of the show here, well, then we're on our way to something that we can really, really build on. If the audiences aren't that crazy about it, which is a possibility, then we could see what they didn't like about it. We can go back, the three of us, and work on the show and try and make it better, which is exactly what readings are for.
And we want to hear from you. So
yes, we do.
Get-go, this was supposed to be in a theater with a live audience, and then after the show comes down, we'd sit and chat with you, and we have face-to-face conversation, pass around the microphone, you'd ask a question, we'd answer it, we'd, ask you some questions. So in this format, it's you will send questions to us either by text or by email, and that's information that you can get from the website or from the Good to Know Before You Go that we'll send out with the link to the show itself. But
if I can add, Michael,
sure.
If there was an audience here, Eric and I, Paul can't make it, couldn't make it to Milwaukee, but if there was a live audience, Eric and I would be watching the audience during the performance, not the actors. We've seen them for 10 days. We would be watching the audience to see if they would laugh at the right moment, they're crying at the right moment, they're gasped at the right moment. That's what we would be looking for. So we can't get that, but we can get that through their comments later.
Indeed, yes. Okay, so go to our website, www.skylightmusictheater.org. That's theatre.org for more information about all the goings on at Skylight, and also to sign up to see Fortunate Sons. The live streams of the show are free. That's a good deal, but we do ask for a donation to help Skylight keep doing what it does. So take care of yourselves and everyone else that you can. Stay safe, stay sound. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Paul. And good night.